Good morning everyone. So here is my third lecture based on optical communication, and the lecture name is title is lasers. So in the previous lecture we have studied about different optical communication techniques and what is a basic block diagram of optical communication, what are their advantages, and there are some numerous kind of theories like ray theory and wave theory, in which we have see what is the ray theory approach in optical communication, what is TIR principle, Snell's law, etc. So in this lecture we are going to see how the optical source, a laser, can work compatible with an optical fiber in an optical communication system. So what is laser diode? So laser is basically an acronym for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation, and it is basically coherent light and it has narrow beam width. You can see laser can produce high output power in fiber optic communication applications. Semiconductor lasers power more than 20 milliwatts are available in the market. As laser light is coherent, a high percentage, that is around 50 to 80%, can be coupled into the fiber core. So we have already studied about the structure of the optical fiber, that it has a core which has a higher refractive index N1 and a cladding which has a lower refractive index N2. So there is a principle which is TIR principle, in which the light will guided through the optical fiber in a way so that it will move inside the core part only and not in the cladding. So what is the basic operation of laser? So there are three fundamental lasing operation. The first one is the absorption, the second one is the spontaneous emission, and the third one is the stimulated emission. So in three diagrams I have discussed about what is absorption phenomena. So suppose there are two energy levels, E0 and E1. The atom is at the lower energy level, that is E0, and some photon energy, that is around h nu, which is basically the difference between the high energy level and the lower energy level, that is E1 minus E0, is needed to move this atom from lower energy state to high energy state. So this is the before absorption phenomena, and this is after absorption phenomena. Similarly, once the atom moves towards the high energy level, that is E1, there is emission. The emission process can be of both types, that is spontaneous emission and stimulated emission. So in spontaneous emission, the atoms move spontaneously by its own, releasing an energy of h nu, which is around E1 minus E0. But in stimulated emission, we have to incident one photon again on the atom residing on the high energy state, and then it will move towards the lower energy state and exiting two photons, that is of energy 2 h nu, that is around 2 E1 minus E0. So what are the conditions for laser large stimulated emission? So if we want large stimulated emission, we want more number of atoms in the high energy state as compared to the lower energy state, and this process is basically called as population inversion. So all three processes occur together with a balance between absorption and emission. Is in the first diagram it is shown. Two conditions to be satisfied for stimulated emission to overwhelm the spontaneous emission and rare stimulated emissions are basically the population of excited level should be greater than that of the lower energy level. So always it is required that the number of atoms in the high energy state is much higher as compared to the lower energy state. The radiation density in the medium should be very steady, very large. On this process, this particular diagram, which is steady state laser operation, so in this we have the radiation density which is emitted from the laser, and it is coherent and it's narrower in the case of the laser. So what is population inversion? So in population inversion, we can explain this property like initially the number of atoms in the lower energy state is higher. So when the incident photon is absorbed at the atoms residing in the lower energy state, suppose E1, so then they will absorb that energy and then it will be moved towards the high energy state, that is E2 suppose. Then there are number of atoms which residing on the lower energy state decreases, and then the process keeps going on, and the total population density at the high energy state keeps on increasing, and when it increases to a much higher level, then there will be emission, whether it can be a spontaneous or it can be a stimulated emission. So once the population density at the N2 is much greater than N1, then there will be stimulated emission, or we can say spontaneous emission. Only the differences in spontaneous emission, the atoms move towards the lower energy state by its own, but in stimulated emission there is requirement of one photon which is incident on the high energy atom, and then there will be release of 2 photons. So in this case there is 2 photons, but in case of spontaneous emission there is release of only 1 photon. So obviously the gain in the case of the spontaneous emission is lesser as compared to the stimulated emission. For lasing action, it's required that we have a stimulated emission. So at thermal equilibrium, photon absorption and emission process takes place side by side, but because N1 is greater than N2, absorption dominates. Laser operation requires stimulated emission exclusively, and to achieve this, majority of atoms should be high energy level than that of lower energy level. Energy is to be supplied to the laser medium to raise the atoms from the lower level to the excited level, and the process by which these atoms are raised from the lower level to the upper level is called, this process is called basically pumping. So once the the pumping is high and the atoms move towards the high energy state, it will move towards lower energy state through stimulated emission. So in stimulated emission, incident and stimulated photon will have what? They have identical energy or identical wavelength. They have narrow line width. Both the released photons have narrow line width. Both have identical direction, that is narrow beam width. Both have identical phase, or you can say it has coherent beam or identical polarization also. The polarization state is same in both the photons which are emitting from the stimulated emission process. So what is basic laser structure? You can see from the laser itself, it has a 2 mirror placed parallel to each other, and mirror 1 and mirror 2, and it has reflectivity around 0.99 or 0.990. So it has higher reflectivity one side mirror and slightly lower reflectivity at the other side. So once the atom is moving, the photon is incident on the atom and it will move in the cavity structure, it will follow or it will increase instantly, and it has amplifying medium. So in the left diagram we have a laser amplifier, and the distance between the 2 mirrors are around L. So this basic structure laser, it works as a amplification also. So as there are 2 photons incident, now these 2 photons will hit another atoms and it will create more photons. So it's a chain type of reaction in the cavity itself, and it will goes on increasing again and again. So by this process we can easily amplify the light, and this light intensity is very high. It is coherent in nature, it has same state of polarization, it has same wavelength, and this whole process is the mainly structure for homojunction device, which is basic laser, that is a continuous wave laser. In the last diagram we have a laser structure which is similar to PN junction, P and N type, and in this P and N type, in between there is a active region. So this region is basically active region. So this is a Fabry-Perot laser. It has P type gallium arsenide site, and there is N type of gallium arsenide, in which we have P type of active region sandwiched between 2 different PN junctions, and then this particular active region is basically Fabry-Perot cavity, and by this we can achieve our lasing action. So what is Fabry-Perot laser? You can see from the structure itself, it has again the 2 mirrors and it will be placed parallel to each other, and it has a lasing spot and the optical output to be coupled into the fiber through this lasing spot, and it has a radiation pattern around 5 to 10 degree of angle. So what is the spectrum of the laser? The spectrum of the laser is a bell shape of structure, and it has different modes, and these modes are called as longitudinal modes. So it's a Gaussian profile you can have, and the center wavelength is around lambda naught, and from 800 to 1000 nanometer it has a wavelength range. So and the mode separation between each mode is around delta lambda. Similarly for frequency it is delta f. So for standard laser, which is single frequency laser, it has a very narrow beam which is shown in the right side of the figure, and it has a beam width around 1 to 3 nanometer wide. So the laser has a very narrow beam, and the LED has around 30 to 50 nanometer wide. So now heterojunction structure. So improved carrier confinement, thus lower current densities. stripe geometry is used in heterojunction structure. In stripe geometry, we have the active region, that is N plus gallium arsenide. Now next layer is N aluminum gallium arsenide, which is a ternary compound. Then P aluminum gallium arsenide. Then there is a P gallium arsenide active region, and then confinement layers P plus gallium arsenide. So these there are more than one junction in this case, so that's why it is called as homojunction structure. So it has a broad emission area which creates several problems, including difficulty in heat sinking, relatively wide active area, unsuitable light output geometry for efficient coupling to the fiber, etc. So we have to see how this broad area double heterojunction laser can be used so that it has a narrower beam. Not all the light will be radiated from every side of the structure. So which is shown in this figure. The light output is from both sides of this structure. So we have to limit this light in a narrower side. So this is the next geometry, that is double heterojunction stripe contact laser. In this we have a narrower emitting region which only emit the light. So the difference between both have that layers are same, that is N plus gallium arsenide, N aluminum gallium arsenide, then P aluminum gallium arsenide, then there is active region of P aluminum gallium arsenide, and then P plus gallium arsenide, and there is emitting region which is very narrower and it has a smaller radiation pattern. So this structure is much more useful or convenient, you can say, in the form so that we can obtain a particular narrower beam for the case of the laser. So now we have distributed Bragg reflector laser, and distributed reflectors are basically correlated lasers. So this has a grating outside active region, and the light emitted from the hitting these gratings, and it will move back towards the active medium. The second diagram shows the anti-reflection coating on the active medium. So it has also wavelength tuning grating, which is useful for laser radiation out. Next one is the quantum well laser. So quantum well laser is a stack of the quantum layers, that it has a different well type of structure like this, and when light is confined into a cavity smaller than its wavelength, it behaves as a particle, that is quantum, rather than as wave. So most semiconductor lasers are very thin, that is around 20 microns or so in the vertical direction, but this is not thin enough to cause quantum behavior. So in quantum well lasers, cavity height is reduced to around 10 to 20 nanometer, and cavity width is generally from 5 to 10 microns. The amount of material in the active region is substantially reduced, which reduces the amount of energy needed to achieve lasing, and thus lasing threshold. So next we have the laser characteristics. So what is full width, half maximum, peak wavelength, line width, threshold current, operating current, rise time, output power, and operating temperatures are the some characteristics of the laser. So here the laser characteristic is VI characteristics, the current and the output power. So the P and I characteristic, the relative optical output power versus current. So when you increase the current up to some threshold level, their output power is nothing, but when you increase after threshold, it has an increase in the relative optical output power. Similarly, the laser threshold depends on the temperature. As you increase the temperature, the current, the power optical output power will also increase as you increase the current in the case of the lasers. In the case of distributed Bragg reflector, we have seen the diagram, that is there is active medium, laser radiation out from that active medium. The grating outside active region, which is basically a corrugated grating. This is a corrugated grating, you can write corrugated grating structure. The light will hit this structure and it will comes to the active medium. So the light will hit this structure and comes to the active region, and by this process there is a gain. So similarly, we have anti-reflection coating in the active region. So there is some anti-reflection coating which will make the lens, the light will travel to the corrugated grating and then hit the lens and then hit the active medium, so that there will be no reflection again inside the corrugated grating. In this first diagram, there is reflection of the light from corrugated grating to the active medium. So for removing this part, particularly this part, we have a anti-reflection coating. So this is the type of Bragg reflector which is called as DBR lasers. This is a special type of laser. Normally we use in our projects and in day-to-day life, that is continuous wave laser. So the continuous wave lasers along with the optical fiber and then with the detector. So from the continuous wave laser we obtain the optical light and then it will be fed to the optical fiber, and at the detector side what will happen? It will detect the light and it will convert again that light into the electrical form of signal. So now next which we have discussed, that is quantum wave laser. So when light is confined into a cavity which is smaller than its wavelength, it behaves as a particle, that is quantum rather than as a wave. So this name basically quantum well lasers arises. It's a well type of structure. The confinement of the atoms in the well is much more higher as compared to the normal lasers. So if the confinement of the atoms in the well is much higher, then the radiation which is emitted through the well is also higher. So the intensity of light in this quantum well laser is much higher as compared to Fabry-Perot laser or Bragg reflector lasers and etc. So this type of laser is also a special kind of laser. So quantum well lasers have a much reduced sensitivity to temperature change compared to DBR or distributed Bragg or distributed feedback Bragg grating structures. The quantum well structure produces only one line which has a narrower line width than for non-quantum well structures. The wavelength of the light emitted by a quantum well laser is determined by the width of the active region rather than just the band gap of the material from which it is constructed. Lasers with single active regions are called single quantum well lasers, and number of quantum well lasers are used one on the top of the another to build multiple quantum well structures. So separating layers between the cavities are very thin and it is around 10 to 20 nanometers. So multiple quantum well laser structure produces higher gain and greater total power. So as we have discussed that because of this, the structure of the laser is such that the confinement of the atom is much higher, so that it produces very high gain and great total power. By applying multiple quantum well laser structure to the active region of the laser, the performance of the laser such as threshold current, temperature characteristic and modulation frequencies were significantly improved. A disadvantage is that multiple quantum well lasers produces a broader line width than single quantum well lasers once, but we require a narrower width. So that is a main disadvantage of multiple quantum well lasers. So we have discussed the LED characteristic. As we have light characteristic or VI characteristics, in the similar way we have PI characteristic, that is power versus current characteristic. So as you increase the current up to certain point, the power will not increase at the output, but once it will cross the threshold current value, then the power will instantly increase and it has an external efficiency depend upon the slope. So there is a threshold current, that is ITH, and the slope value is dP by di, that is dP is the change in the power and di is the change in the current. Similarly, in the second diagram we have laser threshold depends on the temperature. As you increase the temperature values, that is from 20 degree to 65 degree, and you increase the current also from in the milliampere from 0 to 120, the power will optical power will also increase. So after a certain time it is saturated or it is 0, but after a certain threshold value it will increase to a value which is much higher as compared to a threshold value which is at lesser optical temperatures. So thank you so much. Now we will discuss in the next lecture what is LEDs, what are the different sources. That is basically one source we have discussed, that is lasers, and another source is LED, and some formulas related to lasers and LEDs. So thank you so much. For this we have a laser type of basic structure which we have defined here, that is basically a laser type which has two types, double heterojunction and stripe geometry. In the next lecture what we will going to see what are the different optical sources, that is basically LED, light emitting diodes. So in lasers we have required stimulated emission, but in LEDs, that is light emitting diodes, we require spontaneous emission in place of stimulated emission. So obviously lasers are much more useful in the case of the optical communication, as they have narrower beam, smaller line width, narrower line width, and they have different multiple structures which we can easily use for different applications. So thank you so much.